Hello, and welcome to the Torah Outreach Program, Erev Shabbos Verse of Inspiration. Today's Verse of Inspiration is sponsored by Mr. Josh and Ms. Rachel Khan. It's a schus, a merit for all of Klal Yisrael. This week's Parshas Vayera. We have one of the most central and most important themes, ideas in our history and in our Torah, and that is Akedas Yitzchak, the sacrifice and the binding of Yitzchak. Avram is told to do something that is completely against his nature and the nature of any parent. More against his nature, because besides the fact that Yitzchak was everything to him, Yitzchak was the promise of the future. Yitzchak was supposed to be the forerunner of the Jewish people. And he had Yitzchak when he was over 100 years old. But also, Avram was taught that human sacrifice is abominable in the eyes of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And he went around preaching that to everyone. And they made him a leader of his time. Imagine if he did this, he would come back with nothing, with lost his son, lost his lineage, lost his future, lost his reputation. He'd have nothing. And Hashem said, give it all up, because I said so. And Avram said, okay. So much so, he was so focused on that mitzvah. And when he was told, don't do it, he argued. Because here was my opportunity to give everything, my soul, to Kadosh Baruch Hu, everything. And he was told not to. And then afterwards, unfortunately, he finally spoke up. And son almost complained. He said, yesterday you told me he was going to be the forerunner of the Jewish people. And you gave me a son at 100 years old. And then you tell me to sacrifice him. And then you tell me to bring him down. And I tried to fire him. First of all, I never told you to sacrifice him. I told him to bring him up as a sacrifice. You brought him up, I'll bring him down. Never mind. The prophet doesn't want. And then Avram said, I'm not bringing him down until you promise me that you will look at it as if I did this. And as if I gave my son over to you. And whenever my descendants are in trouble, whenever they've crossed the line, you'll remember this and count it in their merit. Hashem showed him a ram. He said, take that in place of your son, and I'll look at it as if you actually did it. And everything he did with that ram, he said, I hope and I pray that Hashem looks at it like I'm doing it to my son, because I'm looking at it like I'm doing it to my son. Now, every year, we call upon this sacrifice. Every year, on Rosh Hashanah, we blow a ram's horn. Why a ram? To remember that ram that Avram sacrificed instead of Yitzchak, and that Hashem will remember this is what our forefather did in our place. Our forefather did in Yitzchak's place, in our merit. But when we say that, or when we think that on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem wants to know, how are you emulating this? How does this have to do with you? Are you ready to give up everything for me? We're not asked to give up our lives, although different people in different times have been. As early as this was a couple of years ago on October 7th, people gave up their lives. But how do we give up everything and show Kadosh Baruch Hu that we're completely dedicated? And that's what he wants to know on Rosh Hashanah. Are you ready to do this? The Vilna Gaon says that we were put into this world to break bad habits, to change ourselves. We're put here because of our environment and because of our DNA and the way you're raised. Things, everybody's got their things that they need to work on. And for some people, it's incredibly hard to overcome. There are habits that we have that are very, very hard to break. And the Vilna Gaon says, that's why you're here. And he said, if you don't work to better yourself, to make yourself a higher person, you don't work to break through these habits or bad personality characteristics or change yourself away, what are you here for? That's what you put here. So what are you doing? On the other hand, Rabbi Yisroel lived about 80 years after the Vilna Gaon. He said, it is harder, it is easier to learn through all of Shas, all the Gemaras in Shas. It's easier to do that than to break one bad leader, one bad personality. So that's not very encouraging. That's horrifying. The Vilna Gaon said, this is our job, and if we don't do it, what's the use of our life? And Rabbi Yisroel said, it's harder, it's easier to learn through all of Shas. And anybody will tell you, that's incredibly hard. But how do we balance the two? Avram's entire life, from the time God said, pick yourself up and move out of where you're living, move to Canaan, and be different than everybody else, when the whole world's worshiping idols and he's doing something else, all the way to conquer the inner love that you have for your son, and conquer the belief system that I gave you, because I said so, go against everything you believe in, because I said so. That was ingrained in our DNA. We have that ability. We have that ability. Not only did he daven, he prayed that the source, the merit of what he did should be ours, but also the ability of what he did should be ours. Not that we have to give our lives to God, sacrifice our children. He doesn't expect that of anybody. And giving up, it doesn't expect anybody to to sacrifice their children. But even giving up their life, few and far in between. But to conquer, overcome a natural bad habit, or society is doing one thing and it's very, very hard for me to do something else, that he expects of us more than anything else. We're only going to say that's why we're here. We're told, the Medrash says, that when Hashem before Hashem created the world, he said, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man. Plural. Why plural? Because since the Malachim, these heavenly angels, were created before we were, before humans, Hashem, in his incredible humility, didn't want to hurt them and create something else that was similar to them. So he asked their advice. And they said, well, what is man? And he explains. He'll have some good parts, some bad parts. He'll do the right thing, he'll do the wrong thing, he'll make mistakes, he'll come back, he'll do horrible things, back and forth, constant fighting. Constant inward fighting, trying to develop himself, and make some horrible mistakes along the way. And the Malachim said, why bother? What is man that you should waste your time with? Hashem just immediately destroyed those Malachim. Made another group. Asked them the same question. They gave the same answer. And they were immediately destroyed. Asked a third group. and they learn their history. They know what had happened previously. So they said, Ron Hashem, do whatever you want. Whatever you feel is right to do. And he created me. When he had to destroy, when God destroyed all living creatures in the time of Noah and the flood, the Malachim came back to him and he said, can we comment? And he let him comment. He said, why didn't you listen to the first two groups if this is what happens? And he said, because of those people that are going to overcome, that are going to bring my name into the world, and make people sit up and notice that there's a God in the world. It's worth it for them. I have a great example. I've told this example before in video. Years ago, I had a third grade student, little girl, from a modern Orthodox family. Every Monday, the kids would come back with their mitzvah notes from Shabbos and from weekends. And cutesy little mitzvah notes that were written on these little, little stick-up cards. I would post them, and I'd give them prizes. One time, a girl came in with her mitzvah note, and it was a longer piece of paper because there's a lot of information there, and I read it, and it said, this past Sunday, my daughter had to went to a birthday party. At the party, third grade, 10-year. At the party, they were serving pizza. And she said, it was a Jewish family also. And she said, I'm sorry, I can't have the pizza because it's not kosher. And they said, well, we're sure your parents will, no, I wrote it. Well, why don't we ask your parents? So I said, you don't have to ask. The mother felt bad, and she called up this little girl's mother. And the little girl's mother said, thank you very much. If she doesn't want it, she should be having it. Okay. When she got home, the mother felt bad for her daughter, and she went out and had pizza ready as soon as she walked in the house. The daughter said, oh, I don't need it, I had it. The mother was, for a minute, she was a little disappointed. What do you mean you had? Well, the girl's mother felt bad that I wasn't eating it. So she quickly ran out to the nearest kosher pizza place and picked pizza up for me. And the mother continues that I called up this woman to thank her. And this woman, a Jewish woman, said, it was my honor. I felt bad because I didn't have kosher pizza. And this little third grade girl wouldn't eat the pizza. And it was my honor to go out and buy her kosher pizza. So I read this note. And I said to this girl, really? You're giving me this note as a little mitzvah note that I'm supposed to put on the bulletin board with all the other mitzvah notes of, I helped my parents, I helped my mom set the table, I got up early. Those are all really fine and nice, but this is not the same category. She was confused. I said, this isn't a little mitzvah note that you give your third grade Rabbi and say, yay, and get a pat on the back. This is the Rebbeinu Hashem taking the malachim and saying, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I created the world. Shaking the universe. To overcome society, overcome the peer pressure in third grade, and say, I'm not going to do it because it's wrong, even though everybody else is. That's what this is. This isn't a little thing from the billboard. This is a thing from the newspapers. This is the thing that Rebbeinu Hashem is shaking the world and saying, look at my people. Look at this little girl. Mekadeh Shem Shemayim. Overcome society, overcome the pressure. That's what we're here for. I told this story in one of my facilities. Right before, I gave a few people a challenge. And the challenge was, don't smoke on Shabbos. One day. And one lady said, actually, I'm sorry, I gave the story after this. Because one lady said, it's so hard for me because everybody else is sitting around and smoking. And it's so hard for me to be different. Especially when I enjoy it so much. That's when the story came back to me. I told that story. And that little lady said, I'm going to try, Rabbi. I'm going to really try. Hopefully next week I'll be able to tell you that she did. But this is our forefathers. This is Avram taking everything he believed in, everything he loved, everything he wanted, and was ready to throw it away because the Kadosh Baruch Hu said so. And that's what we're all about. And every Rosh Hashanah, Hashem says, so where's your Akedah Yitzchak? Where's your sacrificing your son? Don't worry about sacrificing your son. Where's you taking something that you want, but you know is wrong, and denying yourself of it because you know it's wrong, or because the peer pressure is against you, or because we're different than everybody else. We don't want to be different. Originally, we weren't called Jews. We were called Ivrim, or Hebrews, because we are descended from Avram HaIvri. Ivri means from the other side. Avram from the other side. What does that mean, Avram from the other side? Because if the whole world is doing one thing, Avram and his descendants are from the other side. They're doing something else. They know something's right. No matter what everybody else is doing, they'll do that. Overcoming their environment, overcoming their inner drive to do the wrong thing, and purposely, because they know it's the right thing to do, they will force themselves to do something that's against their nature.